Hello, welcome to WayPoint Survival. Today, I want to talk to you about 10 survival tips that you need to know. Stay tuned. So I'm down here by the creek and down on this pretty large gravel bar here, and it's in the shade. It's kind of hot out. Of course, it's summertime, and I just want to share some tips that I think you'll really like. These are some things that I've learned over the years, and I put them into a little bit of a rhyme to help you remember, and also they're not that long to write down, so you might want to get a piece of paper and keep track of them. Now, this isn't necessarily part of the video, but you know, having a good walking stick is a really good idea, and I've hiked at a number of places, and I do put some of these shields on here from different places that I've gone, and I did find out though that this being a hickory stick, it does make it a little hard to put those little nails in. So I have a lot more than this, but that's what kind of I end up with after a while. All right, we're gonna put this over here against a tree and then take off the backpack and get into it. There are a couple of items that I want to show you I think you're gonna like, so stay tuned for that. I'll get to that here in just a minute. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is about your backpack. Now, this is just a small day pack, and I use it a lot in my videos. It's a pretty good size, and it's got some good webbing all the way around it, so it's easy to attach extra pouches and things too. But one thing that I have learned in my many years of being out into the woods is that you need to pack it right. There's a lot of gear out there. There are a lot of things that are marketed to us. Some of them are really good and clever, and it fills a gap or a space that really needs to be filled. But then there's a lot of other stuff that you can put in your pack. It's just so much extra weight. I mean, it really doesn't do a whole lot for you. You get caught up into that idea of what if, and you'll find out that if you learn how to pack your bag right, and of course that goes along with, you know, weight distribution and all of that. You know, your heavier items need to be toward the top, up toward your back, and keep the lighter stuff down at the bottom. And also, it's a really good idea if you have a pack like this that isn't waterproof. If you have like a rain poncho or something, or even just a plastic garbage bag, like a contractor bag, go ahead and put that down in the bottom. That way, when you set your pack down, if the ground is a little damp or wet, it doesn't soak up through the pack and then just wick up into everything else. So just a little tip for you, but pack it right. The next tip is make sure and just travel light. You don't have to have a whole lot of stuff. You know, in our modern world, we get so used to having everything at our fingertips. And when you try to go out into the backcountry and you've tried to remember every single thing that you could possibly ever need for every contingency, you're going to find out that you pack way too much gear. And of course, that's the sign of a newbie, someone who's not that experienced in the outdoors, is that not only did they not pack right, but they're also not traveling light. It's interesting, and this is nothing against any of my students, but you know, when they first come to class, many of them will have a big backpack with a whole lot of stuff. They'll have all the items that I have in my gear list for my classes, and then they pack a bunch of extra stuff, and usually by the end of class they're kind of looking at it, they're ready to put it back on and carry it back out to the parking area, and they're like, you know, I really didn't need all of this stuff. And of course, that's rewarding as a teacher because, you know, it means that they've learned something, and you learn multi-use items and all of that. But it really is important that you just travel light. Try to figure out what's the least that you can get by with, so you don't just pack a whole bunch of junk and garbage. I mean, it may be good gear, but you really probably don't need it. I mean, for instance, today it's really warm. I think it's 92 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. I really don't need any extra layers. I don't need a jacket. You know, I do have a rain jacket in here if I want it, but other than that, I don't really need any extra layers. It's plenty hot as it is. So why would you pack a whole bunch of extra stuff if you're actually not going to use it? The next tip I want to share with you has to do with sleeping at night. And maybe you remember the little rhyme when we were kids, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, right? Well, hopefully we don't have any bed bugs. But that idea of sleeping tight comes from the old rope beds. And they had ropes that went across this way and then lengthways as well. They kind of wove in and out. And after a while they would stretch and sag, and the bed would get a great big divot in the center, and it was an uncomfortable way to sleep. And so you would have to get out every once in a while and take all the bedding off, and they had a special, like a wooden key, and it would fit on the ropes, and you would twist it, and then you would retie everything. You would tighten the bed up so you could get a good night's sleep. Of course, today we don't use rope beds, but we kind of do with the hammocks. And one thing that you want to remember to do is do sleep tight. Now, I'm not talking about getting a sleeping bag that, you can't move around and you're just so restricted. I don't mean that. I just literally mean you need to make sure that your hammock, for instance, isn't, between a tree like a banana. I like to keep mine almost completely straight, because this nylon, it will give. And even though it's stretched out straight, by the time I get in it and my weight throughout the night, moving around and twisting and turning and all of that, it will still have a nice dip in it by morning. And of course, you want to lay diagonally across your hammock. But so many people, they just don't sleep tight. I've seen some hammocks, the trees were too close together, and I mean literally it was just almost a U shape with their hammock. And hammocks are fantastic, but if you don't get it put up right, you're going to be miserable. So do sleep tight. All right, before we go any farther, I want to show you this little rig that I put together for making coffee when I'm out in the back country like this, if I just want to stop and get something quick. First of all, I just have a small water bottle here, so you can boil water in this if I need to. I do have a super lightweight spoon. It's a stainless steel spoon. I think I picked that up at the Salvation Army or Dollar Tree or something. And then down in here, I'll set this down for a second, I have a cup. And I bought this also at the thrift store. And it says Happy Camper on it, but it's stainless steel. And that means I can cook over this really easy. And I keep a napkin like this on the outside, so that when I go to put my bottle in, it slides in like that and it doesn't rattle. So that's a big help. And then there's also room for the spoon to slide in on the outside, just like that, and it nests around the curve. That makes a really handy little outfit for cooking, and I mean, you can make noodles and all kinds of stuff in here if you really wish. So I find that to be a very handy little method of carrying my camping stuff. Another very handy item that I like to carry is this stove. And many of you are familiar with this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but this is made by Coghlan's, and it's the kind that opens up like this, and you can either put a big pot on it, or you can close this in for a smaller pot or a cup like I have. And in here I have some of these fuel tablets, so 2 of them will do just fine. And then also a little bit of wooden matches. The wooden matches are just a backup to my lighter, but these are really nice because sometimes these are a little hard to light, and if you'll notice, there are holes in the bottom. So what you can do is you can put the tablets in here and then light them from the bottom using those holes, and that makes it a little easier. Or you can just take the match and lay it alongside of your little tablets here, these fuel tablets, and that makes a really nice burn as well. By the way, if you do have Molly on your pack, it makes a great place to put your spoon while you're cooking so that it doesn't just lay on the ground and get dirty. All right, we've got some good bubbles coming in here, and time to add a little bit of coffee. There we go. That'll make it nice and strong. And now I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Grunes. You know, the one thing that I've learned after spending so much time outdoors all my life is the simpler that I can make things, the better that I like it. Just like I like using camping gear that is multi-purpose, I also like to simplify what I do every day as often as I can. And that's one of the things that I like about Grunes. Since every day's serving comes in its own individual snack pack, they're incredibly easy to throw into your backpack before heading out. So whether you're spending a day out on the trail or doing a multi-day camp out, they're just simple and easy to put in your pack and take with you. What's really great about them is Grunes isn't just another multivitamin or greens gummy or some sort of a prebiotic. It's all of those things and a lot more put into one convenient, easy to use pack. And the reason that you get a whole snack pack instead of just eating one gummy a day is because you couldn't pack this many vitamins and nutrients into just a single gummy. And I guess what surprised me the most about it is how delicious they are. I mean, these really taste good. They're in the shape of a little bear, and they are delicious, and I really look forward to eating these. Another thing that impressed me is just how comprehensive they are. While a typical multivitamin might contain 7 to 9 vitamins or so, Grüns contains more than 20 vitamins and minerals, along with 60 whole food ingredients. They're also vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, contain no synthetic sweeteners or dyes, and they're available in both low sugar as well as sugar-free options like these right here. You can see on the pack. The science behind them is pretty interesting too. The vitamins that are in here, including B12 and folate, are methylated, which simply means it's easier for your body to absorb. And these little powerhouses also contain up to 3 times the dietary fiber compared to leading greens powders that can help support gut health, immunity, and overall wellness as part of a balanced diet. As a matter of fact, in a recent study, folks taking Grüns showed a measurable increase in both folate and vitamin C levels. Now, if you'd like to check out the great taste and nutritional benefits of these amazing gummies, you can actually get up to 52% off of Grüns today. Either click the link in the description box below or scan the QR code that's been showing on your screen. And once again, a big thank you to Grüns for sponsoring this video. The next tip that I want to share with you is prepare for night. Now, what does that mean? Well, before you go to bed, it may be beautiful weather, and if you're using a campfire or something like that, make sure and gather up some bundles of dry wood. Some small twigs for starting the fire in case it goes out in the middle of the night, and some bigger stuff. And tuck that back up under your tarp shelter, or if you're in a hammock with a fly over the top, just put it in a place where it's not going to get wet. If you have an extra, like a contractor garbage bag or something like that, anything that can keep it relatively dry. You also want to make sure that before you go to bed, you have everything arranged where you need it. One thing that I like to do is I like to take my boots off and then I unlace them, make them really loose so I can slip them on and off, and I put the shoestrings inside of my boots. That way, if I have to get up in the middle of the night and use the restroom, I can just slip on those boots and I can walk out into the woods, take care of my business, and come back and be just fine. It just saves from fumbling around and trying to tie things, and you know, the more you do that in the middle of the night, the more you wake yourself up, and it's just harder to get back to sleep. So prepare for the night. Another thing, rain. We talked about that with your wood, but make sure that everything's buttoned down. I've seen people on camping trips where they had their hammock up and they had a tarp over the top, but the tarp didn't quite cover the ends of their hammock. So if it rains, it's going to be like a funnel. The rain's just going to come on in and it's going to soak them and their sleeping bag and everything else. So make sure that you make preparations for the night. So you have your headlamp handy. Everything should be where you can easily grab it. I always carry my headlamp. I've got a zipper on the top of here, or a flashlight, whatever I have. I don't want to depend on my cell phone. I may need that battery if there's an emergency. It could be a backup light, but definitely want to have that handy, and all of the things that you would need so that before you go to bed, everything's kind of tucked in and tightened up, so that if a rain does come, kind of surprises you, comes out of nowhere, you're not fighting the weather and afraid everything's going to get wet. You can just snuggle back into your sleeping bag or your hammock, whatever you're doing, and just enjoy the rain because you've made preparation for the night. All right, the next tip, if you're keeping track, this is number 5, is you want to avoid the fright. All right, so we're just talking about, you know, sleeping tight and preparing for the night, but you want to avoid the fright. Remember that most wild animals are more afraid of you than you are of them. And so, generally speaking, they don't like to come around where people are. Of course, you don't want to corner a bear or anything like that. But generally speaking, especially in our area, we have black bears, and they're pretty shy. And unless it's a mama with cubs or something like that, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, most wild animals aren't going to leave you alone. But one of the big things that you do if you want to avoid the fright is keep a clean campsite. You know, don't have trash and garbage and wrappers and, you know, a bunch of crumbs from eating just all over your campsite. I've been in areas where honestly it kind of looked like a pigsty. And I hate to say that, but I've seen some places where they just didn't take care of camp. And you've got all of that. Of course, it brings ants and bugs of all shapes and sizes. And there's enough to contend with out in the backcountry without having, a whole bunch of bugs descend on your camp. But it also calls predators and wild animals. They're always looking for free food. You can't blame them. It's much easier than hunting for it. And so make sure that you are prepared for that. Make sure and bring bug repellent and, or a mosquito head net or something like that. It can be an absolute lifesaver. Just gives you that calm at night that you're looking for. And the other thing is, and this comes again with our first point about experience, is that, once you get used to being out in the outdoors, this isn't such a scary area. I mean, everything that you see here in the daytime is pretty much what's here at night. But a lot of people get very afraid of the wilderness. They're afraid that, something's going to just, creep out of the woods and grab them. And that's probably because of our preoccupation with horror films and videos and things that people watch where, scary things come out of the woods at night or come up out of the water to get you. Folks, that stuff is pretty much just fantasy. And so really and honestly, this is a great environment. And in some ways, it's a lot safer than a lot of urban areas. And so I'd a whole lot rather be around a bunch of wild animals than a bunch of wild people. So avoid the fright. And part of that is calming yourself and not having a lot of caffeine and having a lot of things that can keep you jittery. And again, just being comfortable with the outdoors is a big deal. All right, so the next part of our rhyme scheme here is observe the height. Now, this can be dead limbs, widowmakers, anything that could cause you damage. So make sure that you are looking up and observing what's around you. But that's also true if you're camping next to a cliff, for instance. Rocks can come down, trees and tree limbs can fall off, something gives way in the middle of the night. But that's also important if you're camping next to a ledge or something on a cliff point. Make sure that you are aware of where you are at all times and that you don't slip and fall. Make sure your camp is in a safe area. So yeah, when you're out and you're looking around for a site, observe the height. It's a good idea. All right, number 7 is observe the blight. Now, there are areas that you will get into where the woods are blighted. There's a lot of trees where, the bark is coming off and it's dead. Those are dangerous areas. They are also prone to wildfires. And so as you get into certain areas out west, up north, depending on where you are in the United States, down here in Ohio, we don't have very many forest fires because it's usually so wet. But you really need to be aware of the area that you're camping in because you can get in serious danger if sparks from the campfire or someone else's. You may be completely safe and perfect with a fire, but not everybody is really fire aware. And so you really need to beware of blight. Not only can there be a lot of extra bugs and insects, but you can also get into a place, like I said, where it's actually very dangerous for your life. And you want to stay out of those areas as much as possible. Those are dead zones. And it's just not a good, healthy place to enjoy being in the backcountry. Our next item in our list is ready for flight. Now, I'm not talking about getting on an airplane and going somewhere. I mean that you need to be prepared to get your stuff together and leave if something does happen. One of the worst things you can do is have a messy campsite. One thing I like to do is I like to pack stuff in their own bags. I use a lot of Ziploc bags or whatever brand you want because I can just pick it up and I can see what's in there and set it down, keeps everything dry, and it helps me to organize. But don't have a big messy camp. You need to be able to break camp and get out of there in a few minutes if necessary, or just be ready to leave everything behind. Again, there are areas in which you can get into big trouble. Farther north you go, you get into grizzly bear territory, you get where there are moose and elk and very large animals that can, really crash through a camp and can cause trouble. And depending on what time of year it is, can be very dangerous. And so you want to make sure that you have everything pretty well ready to grab and go. So as soon as you're done using something, pack it up and put it away back into your pack. It's not so critical on a day pack like this because I don't have that much gear with me, but still, you just never know what can happen. Flash floods, depending on where you're camping out, can occur within just minutes. And the last thing you want to do is leave your valuable gear and all of that for the floodwaters to wash away. Much easier if you can just grab it and scramble out of there And of course, the most important thing is don't camp in those dry canyons and arroyos anyway. Stay out of the dry gullies and places where it can flood. And along with that, observe, along the sides of the banks of a creek like this, you can see where the debris has been deposited up along the top. I can take you through here and I can show you when this floods, where I'm sitting right now is under feet of water. And my head would be underwater, actually, right where I am. But generally speaking, for a lunch or something like this, it's sunshine, it's not much rain, it takes a little while for this creek to rise to that level. But if you are in an area where, it rains in the mountain, hasn't rained anywhere you are, and all of a sudden there's a wall of logs and rocks and mud 10 feet tall just barreling down toward your camp, you're going to be in trouble. So, of course, that comes with experience. Don't camp in places like that, and make sure you're on high ground, you're above the debris level, and maybe a little bit above that. Don't just take that as your lowest common denominator. But then, of course, along with all of this stuff, just have your stuff packed and ready to go. And along with that, it makes for a neater camp and a better camping experience. Number 9 is keep in sight. Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy because most of us feel like we're pretty competent. But a lot of lost people are found less than 200 feet from a trail or a road when they get lost. And the average distance they are from their camp is just a little over a mile. So it's very easy to get turned around. And what happens is a lot of people, they're walking in a certain direction and they never turn around and check their back trail. So they have no idea what it looks like when they turn around 180 degrees to go the other direction. It's all unfamiliar. And so it's very easy. You pick out a tree or a stump or something that looks unusual, that kind of draws your attention. I'm looking right now across the creek at a fallen tree that has fallen across another one, and it's sort of a Y, and it's come across a tree like that. And that's very obvious to me. If I would take notice of that, that would help me not get lost. So there you can see this arrangement. And if I were hiking down a trail or looking for something, I would take note of that because that's unusual. And you're not likely to see anything like that anywhere in the area. And so when you come up upon that, you know that you're close to camp, and you can find yourself hopefully getting back without any trouble. So it's a good idea to learn how to keep in sight. And that's number 9. Keep in sight of your friends, your family. If you've got any children with you or whatever, make sure that everybody has a whistle. That way they can, signal for help if they need it. But the bottom line is don't go too far from your camp. And something that I like to do at night is I'll take one of those Sialume light sticks, the chemical light sticks, and you break them and they glow for 8, 10, 12 hours depending on the color. And I'll hang one of those up somewhere next to my shelter at night. And that way, even though I can't physically see my camp, at night, I can see the glow of that light for quite a ways. And a lot of times what happens to people is they get up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, they're looking for a little privacy, and so they walk down the trail a little ways to take care of their business, and thinking more about needing to go than coming back. And so when they get done, they turn around, and now they're turned around, and they don't know where they're going, and they don't know where their camp is. So very simple, just keep in sight. Make sure that you know exactly where you are. And of course it helps if there's a campfire or there's other people in camp that have lights. But on top of that, just take some precautions. Just do some things. Like I said, those light sticks, they're not terribly expensive. They're pretty lightweight. They're single use, of course. You have to throw them away when you're done. But it provides a nice little night light, and it's a really big help in getting back to camp in the evening. So keep in sight. Now this next one is pretty important, and it has to do with relationships. And this one is, don't ever slight. You ever been slighted by somebody where they look down at you or sneer at you because of the way that you do things, or maybe your pack or your gear isn't as good as theirs? And I know everybody likes to brag about their stuff and what they have, but it's pretty bad when you're around camp. We want to keep everybody happy. We want people to have a good experience. And just because you find a way that works and it works well for you doesn't mean that someone else's way doesn't work well for them. And so we have to be careful when we're out with other people. If we want to have a good camping trip, and this is just one of those survival tips, if it really is a survival situation, don't slight people. Don't ever slight what they do. Help them, encourage them, Maybe you can show them a better way, but do it in a manner that is easy to receive and something that they'll enjoy being around. Remember, be an example, be positive, help them to enjoy the experience instead of looking at it as a negative thing. And so just don't ever slight anybody. And if you do indeed have a better way, show them through your actions and show them by the way that you carry yourself and how you prepare your camp. And you know, if they've got any reasonable intelligence at all, they'll figure out that your way is probably better than their way, and they may even come over and ask you. And when they do, be humble about it. Smile and be gracious and show them how you do things, and you just might win a much better friend out here in the years to come, and maybe a good trail partner. It's good coffee. Well, I hope that you enjoyed these 10 tips. I enjoyed putting them together for you and putting a little bit of thought into it. You know, these are the kind of things that we experience only after years of actually going out and doing it. So I would encourage you, get up off the couch and up off the bed and put together a kit, a pack. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And just get out and enjoy the great outdoors, get some dirt time, as we say. And I think you'll find that these tips will be very helpful for you. This is James Bender for WayPoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll also find the link for our WayPoint Survival digital class. This is where you can train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard the top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find the link for our WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter, full of great ideas you're going to want to print out and keep. Definitely worth reading, comes to your inbox at least once a week, if not more often, and allows us to stay in touch with you in case something happens to this platform. And no, we do not sell your information. Everything stays in-house for us to use. You'll also find the WayPointSurvival.com link, which is where you can sign up to take in-person classes at our beautiful training facility here in Southern Ohio. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.